Christopher sat motionless at the head of the long mahogany table, his name still glowing on the screen behind him. Christopher Hale, Regional Director, North Atlantic Division. The applause had just died. The lights hadn't fully dimmed, but no one noticed the woman in the red blazer disappear through the side door. No one but him. It wasn't her exit that chilled him, it was the 3 words she mouthed just before she vanished. No sound, no breath, just a whisper formed by her lips, like a curse scratched into glass. Asterisk, asterisk, you remember now. Asterisk, asterisk. No one else flinched. Not the line of store managers seated in their stiff uniforms. Not the young marketing execs live streaming the event from their iPads. Not even the CEO, Martin Granger, who stood stage left, hands folded, still wearing that brand-proud smile. Only Christopher's jaw clenched. Only his hands trembled slightly on the edge of the table, like they were trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away. It was the company's biggest internal conference of the year, hosted in a luxury Denver hotel draped in banners that read asterisk people first. Building from within. Everyone there believed they were making history. Everyone except Christopher, who seconds after hearing those words felt like he had stepped into someone else's nightmare. He remembered her face now. She didn't work for the company. She had never been introduced. She hadn't even been listed on the guest badge roster he'd scanned that morning. But she knew him, or more precisely, she knew the version of him. No one in that room had ever met the one buried beneath a false resume, a manufactured promotion, and a last name he hadn't been born with. Christopher stood slowly, barely aware of the silence tightening around him. Something about the room felt wrong. Too symmetrical, too staged, too silent. He scanned the crowd, and for the briefest, sickest second, he saw that no one was blinking. Not one. The woman had left her chair behind, and under it, something shimmered faintly on the Carpetta Company badge. Except this one wasn't plastic. It looked metallic, antique almost, with an engraving not used by the company since 1982. That was the year the original founder, Wallace Granger Martin's father, died suddenly during a similar annual meeting. Except Christopher remembered now. Wallace hadn't died at the conference. He had vanished mid-speech, mid-word, just like her. The badge read, asterisk, asterisk, internal use only Prototype 3, Gr. and Hale, asterisk, asterisk. His blood ran cold. His last name, Hale. He never told anyone where he got it. Never questioned how the offer letter had just appeared in his mailbox 8 years ago with no interview, no application. Never questioned how he kept getting promoted when he never quite understood the numbers. He just obeyed. And then the lights dimmed too far, flickered once, and something old and warbled came through the conference speakers. A child's voice. Slow, drawn out, unnatural. Asterisk, Daddy. Don't let them make me forget again. Asterisk. And Christopher's wife had never told their son his real name. He hadn't been born yet. He turned his mouth dry. His eyes widened, realized something else. There were no exits anymore, only mirrors. The mirrors weren't there before. Christopher knew that. Knew it the way you know the shape of your own hands, or the way light bends when you open your eyes underwater. But now they lined the room full length, ornate, framed in tarnished brass that didn't reflect the lighting properly. The conference hall had no windows, but the glass inside each mirror seemed to shimmer with something colder than shadow. The applause had ended minutes ago, maybe longer, and no one in the audience had moved. Still no one blinked. Christopher's breath hitched. That voice, his son's, wasn't possible. Asterisk. Isaac was 7. Isaac was real. Asterisk. But the voice hadn't. Sounded like a child. It had the high pitch, yes, but none of the warmth, none of the clumsy innocence. It was flattened, processed, like a call played back from an old answering machine, where the tape had been chewed at the edges. Daddy, it had said. Don't let them make me forget again. But forget what? And then just then there was movement, not from the audience, not from the stage, from behind one of the mirrors. A flicker, a shift in depth, like the reflection had hesitated before catching up, and then barely audible, a soft static crackle, like a mic left on in an empty room. He stepped toward the nearest mirror. His own reflection watched him warily. It was him, same suit, same tight jaw, same smooth back hair, but the expression wasn't matching. He wasn't moving the way he was supposed to. Behind him, a whisper, Chris, you good? It wasn't from the mirror, it was from real life. He turned. The room was back. Just like that. Conference lights bright. Mirrors gone, audience blinking, breathing, talking among themselves again, and standing beside him, hand on his shoulder, was Wes Dunlop, the last person Christopher ever wanted to see again. Wes had been transferred 3 years ago to a different region. Rumor was he'd been quietly demoted after some incident, but here he was, grinning that uneven toothy grin, smelling like aftershave and coffee pods. He looked exactly the same except for the eyes. They didn't match anymore. One of them twitched too much when he smiled. Buddy. You blanked out for like 10 seconds. You all right? You looked like someone showed you your own funeral. Christopher tried to form a response, but the words tumbled in his mouth like glass. I think I saw something. A woman, she said something. Wes leaned in closer, his tone switching like someone had flipped a breaker. There wasn't any woman, Chris. Just us. The meeting. You've been under a lot lately. That was the thing with Wes, he always spoke like he knew something. You didn't like someone had handed him a script he wasn't supposed to show you. Christopher looked back at the seat the woman had been in, occupied now by a tall guy in a district manager polo, laughing at something on his phone. No red blazer, no badge, no trace. I think someone switched something, Christopher muttered. There was a badge. Where did the badge go? Wes shook his head gently, then leaned in and said something soft, low, almost too quiet to catch. Don't dig around in things you've already buried. Chris, we're all happier when you forget. And then Wes walked away. Just like that. Christopher was left standing in the middle of the stage like a man waking up in a stranger's dream. That night, he checked into the corporate hotel suite they had reserved for executives. It was too clean, too symmetrical, like someone had staged it for a show that never aired. There were no fingerprints on the bathroom mirror. The minibar had no receipts. The room phone had no outgoing call history. He called home. His wife picked up on the second ring. Hey, he said, can I talk to Isaac? There was silence. Chris, she finally said. You know what the doctor said? Don't do this again. What are you talking about? His voice was climbing. He's my son. I heard him. He spoke to me today. Another silence. Longer than so soft, he almost didn't catch it. Chris. Isaac died 4 years ago. Click. The line went dead. He stared at the phone for nearly a full minute before the sound started again, the same warped static from the conference room. The line wasn't dead. It was listening. A deep old voice came through, not his wife's, not a man's, something between machine and memory. Asterisk, asterisk. The memory you are trying to access has been removed for your safety. Please contact internal compliance for reauthorization. Asterisk, asterisk. He dropped the phone. That night, he didn't sleep. He opened his laptop and searched for anything he could find on Wallace Granger's disappearance. The founder, the man who started the company from a single storefront in Maine. The official story had always been sudden heart failure during a board presentation. But there were no photos from that day. No documents. Even the press release was wrong. The font didn't match the company's old branding. The file size was 1.4 megabytes too small. He dug further, found a Reddit thread buried in our unresolved mistress. Username, long deleted. Title, asterisk, asterisk, Wallace Granger didn't die. He was archived. Asterisk, asterisk. The post had only one comment, written in garbled syntax. Greater than they make you forget. Not because you're wrong, because you're right too early. Don't trust the mirrors. Don't trust anyone who smiles too long. If you wake up and everyone's still facing you, run. Christopher slammed the laptop shut. Then the room phone rang again. Once, twice. He didn't answer. In the mirror across the hotel room, his reflection moved just a second slower than he did. The next morning, he found something slipped under his door. A black envelope. No name. Just a small embossed seal, -grn-hale/proto-03. Inside, one Polaroid photo. In the photo, himself, standing on stage, smiling beside the woman in the red blazer. But the photo was dated 1993. He hadn't even graduated college in 93. 12. And written on the back of the photo, in red ink, asterisk, asterisk, the memory you are living is a placeholder. Ask Wes what happened in Reno. Ask before it resets. Asterisk, asterisk, Reno. Christopher hadn't been to Reno in years. Or ever. He couldn't remember. He called Wes that afternoon. No answer. 5 minutes later, he got a voicemail. No words, just breathing. And then faintly Isaac's voice again, nearly drowned under static. Asterisk, asterisk, they're coming through the mirrors again. Then silence. Christopher stared at his own reflection for a long time. It blinked before he did, and smiled. But he did in single quotes. Christopher had never believed in recovered memories. He used to mock the term quietly. Corporate seminars that threw around mind-body integration like it was a training strategy, as if remembering pain was somehow a path to higher productivity. But that was before the hotel mirror blinked, before the voicemail that had no timestamp, before he found the receipt in his wallet from a diner in Reno, dated 6 days ago, signed in his own handwriting. Beneath a bill for 3 black coffees and 1 slice of lemon pie, something he hadn't eaten since the summer his aunt disappeared. That morning, convinced he was on the edge of a nervous collapse or a breakthrough, he booked a flight to Reno, not through company channels, cash, burner phone. He didn't tell his wife. Didn't even tell himself out loud. Something about it had to stay unsaid, or it would fold in on itself. Disappear like the woman in the red blazer. When the plane touched down, he wasn't sure what he expected. The sun was bright, but the city felt dim. Everything was a little too washed out, like a dream rendered in real time, with half-finished colors. He checked into a motel near the freeway, a 2-story structure that smelled like mildew and chlorine. Room 208. The wallpaper peeled in the corner, and the door stuck when it closed. He didn't sleep. He watched the security feed flicker on. The motel TV 4 channels, all looping, all with a 10-second delay. One camera pointed directly at his room, and somewhere between 2:14 and 2:17 a.m., the feed for exactly 3 seconds, there was a frame of static. And then a flash of a woman's face, not the red blazer woman, not anyone he recognized. Just eyes, wide, watching, as if through glass. Then static again, then back to normal. The next morning, he walked 3 blocks to the address scribbled on the back of the receipt, 33 Auburn Lane. A hardware store now, boarded up and tagged with sun-bleached graffiti. But in the alley beside, it was a rusted door with no sign. Just the faded outline of lettering that once read authorized entry only, Gurn subsidiary. He tried the knob. It turned. The hallway inside was narrow, stale, lit by a single red emergency bulb that shouldn't have been on because there was no power. The air was thick with the scent of paper that had been wet and dried too many times. And at the end of the hall, a small office desk, metal filing cabinets, an old reel recorder with a red light blinking faintly. He pressed play. A voice crackled through. Asterisk, asterisk, Christopher Hale. Prototype 03 has reached emotional boundary threshold. Memory flood approaching. Subject must be neutralized or loop reset will fail. Then, another voice. Wes, he's remembering too much. Do it gently this time. Asterisk, asterisk, the tape ended. He sat in the chair. Jess sat, hands in his lap, breath tight. He wanted it to make sense, wanted this place, this tape, this discovery, to be the answer. This had to be the hidden truth. This was what they didn't want him to find. It had to be. He reached into the bottom drawer of the desk and found a file folder, heavy with paper. The top page read, asterisk, asterisk, subject dossier, Hayhole AC, reinstated 2003. Asterisk, asterisk, 2003. That was the year he thought he'd graduated. The year he took that meaningless internship with a company he could barely remember applying to. The year he stopped having dreams for almost 4 years straight. Inside the file were transcripts, interviews, session logs, memory edits. One page described an incident involving a false wife simulation that had to be wiped. Another mentioned a child memory insertion used for emotional control. Isaac was never born. He felt like vomiting. He wanted to tear the file to shreds, set the place on fire, scream until his own voice became foreign. But then he turned one more page in, saw a photo paper clipped to the top corner. It was a picture of him, as a boy, maybe 10 years old, standing in front of a mirror. Behind him, something was watching from the reflection. Not standing, not human, just there, pressed against the glass. Watching the back of his head. In the bottom margin, handwritten, in the same ink as the Polaroid from the hotel. Asterisk, asterisk, loop failed once, not again. Asterisk, asterisk, he ran. Back into the alley, into the washed-out light of Reno, into the stale Nevada heat that suddenly felt like a stage lamp aimed directly at his face. Back in the motel, he called Wes again. No answer. But this time, he left a voicemail. I know. I saw it. I saw the file. Wes, I saw what you did. I'm not crazy. You lied. You all lied. He ended the call, and then his phone vibrated. A new voicemail. From his own number. He played it, no words, just breathing. Then asterisk, asterisk, his own voice. You're not supposed to remember Reno. You left for a reason. Asterisk, asterisk then. A third voice, feminine, warm, gentle. Asterisk, asterisk, she. Go back to sleep, sweetheart. You're doing so well. Asterisk, asterisk, click. Everything cracked. Not in a dramatic, thunderous way. Not like a plate shattering or a scream echoing through an empty building. More like paper folding too many times. More like the soft pop of a bubble being pricked with a needle. He turned, and the motel room was not his. The layout was inverted. The bed on the wrong side, the wallpaper floral now, not striped. The TV was playing something black and white, no sound. And sitting on the bed, legs crossed, head tilted, like she'd always been there, was the woman in the red blazer. She didn't look surprised. You went too far, she said, not unkindly. They always think Reno is the answer. That's the whole point of Reno. What are you? He asked, or maybe whispered. He couldn't feel his mouth. She smiled, not cruelly, almost with pity. I'm the loop's expiration notice. I come when your mind's trying to crawl out the back of the story. He blinked, and she was gone again. Except her voice lingered, just above the ceiling fan. Asterisk, asterisk, the memory glitch wasn't the mistake, Christopher. It was the clue. Asterisk, asterisk, the room was silent again. He got up slowly, looked in the mirror above the dresser. This time, the reflection was real. No lag, no shadow, no watcher. But one detail ruined everything. The photo on the nightstand. A wedding picture. Him, in a tux. Hertha woman, in the red blazer and white. Holding hands, laughing. Date, October 14th, 1999. He had no memory of it. None, except he did. And it wasn't a wedding. It was a funeral. But who's behind him? The static began again. Only this time it was coming from inside the mirror, and this time the reflection didn't match. It was Wes, smiling, mouth moving, no sound, mouthing the words, asterisk, asterisk, you never left. Asterisk, asterisk, then the mirror shattered without a sound, and all the lights in the room went out. The first message came not through a voice, not even through a hallucination, but through a post-it note tucked between 2 pages of the Motel Gideon Bible page. 473, in the book of Jeremiah. The note wasn't old, but the ink was smudged at the edges, like someone had written it fast, and with trembling hands. 3 words, all in caps. Asterisk, asterisk, still watching you. Asterisk, asterisk, no signature, no handwriting style. He recognized, but it wasn't meant for just anyone. The way it was folded, the tiny triangle crease in the top left corner, matched exactly how he used to fold his pocket notes in high school. He hadn't done that in over 2 decades. There was something else. A small red circle drawn beside the words, not ink, a waxy smear, almost like lipstick. But Christopher knew exactly what it meant. It was the same symbol that had appeared in the margin of the Wallace Granger files, stamped in a tone so faint he hadn't seen it the first time. A red circle, half-filled, like a setting sun, drawn by someone who had forgotten how the sky worked. And then, later that night, someone slid an envelope under his door. No sound, no footsteps in the hallway. Just the slow rustle of cheap paper against cheap carpet. He stared at it for a long time before opening it, as if touching it would make whatever was inside more real. Inside, a photograph, a grainy image, taken from an overhead surveillance angle, black and white, time-stamped asterisk asterisk October 14, 2003. 3:44 a.m. Asterisk asterisk. The image showed a group of people seated around a conference table. Christopher was among them. So was Wes, and others' faces he couldn't immediately place. But they felt familiar in that wrong, displaced way, like family members from dreams you never fully wake from. One woman in particular drew his attention. She had a red ribbon in her hair, not the red blazer woman, but her eyes were the same. The back of the photo had a message, typed no, ink embossed into the paper itself. Asterisk asterisk, you weren't alone then. You aren't alone now, we've all woken up. Asterisk asterisk. That was when he noticed the door handle trembling. He stepped back, held his breath. No knock, just one long, slow scrape like a fingernail down steel. Then silence. When he opened the door, no one was there. Just another note, this one smaller, taped to the PEEPHOLE. Asterisk asterisk channel 3. 2:19 a.m. Do not look directly at the mirror. Asterisk asterisk. That night, he waited. He set up his phone camera, aimed it at the motel's clunky old TV. At 2:19 exactly, channel 3 glitched out of its normal static feed and began playing footage. Not from a show. Not from anything he recognized, just black and white surveillance of an old break room. 5 people sitting silently in a circle, none speaking. And then, one by one, they began turning to look directly into the camera. Christopher paused the video. One of them was him. Much younger, shaved head, no glasses, wearing a company polo with the old GRN insignia, the same one from the obsolete badge. He scrubbed through the video. At minute 5, all the screens in the break room flickered with a symbol, the half-red circle. Then the lights shut off. And from the camera's mic, someone whispered, barely audible, nearly lost in the hiss. Asterisk asterisk. They put it in the water. We only remember when we stop drinking. Asterisk asterisk. The video stopped abruptly. Cut to black. Then a new message filled the screen, pixelated and slow, as if typed by something mechanical and angry. Asterisk asterisk. If you remember, you are not safe. This is the only warning you get. Asterisk asterisk. And just before the screen went dark, a name appeared. Not his own. Log subject 02 Manos Hedi Emmy. Stone. Christopher knew that name. She wasn't a friend. Not even a colleague. But when he read it, something ancient and cold unfolded in his chest, like frost-cracking bone. A name from a story his aunt used to tell him before she vanished. A sleepwalking girl who remembered other people's dreams. Someone who drew symbols on the walls and whispered to radios. He searched the name. Found nothing. Then he checked the voicemail box again. A new message. A woman's voice. Soft, uncertain, almost dazed. Asterisk asterisk. If you got this, then you see it too. I remember you. From the break room, from the basement, from the lake. They told me you didn't make it. I'm not supposed to be calling. I think they're still inside me. If I forget again, don't let them put me back under. Asterisk asterisk. Then static. Then her voice again, like she had turned away from the phone mid-sentence. Asterisk asterisk. He's not who he thinks he is. None of us are. We were built to forget. That's why we all have the dreams. Asterisk asterisk. He replayed it 3 times. Each time, a new word surfaced. A sentence fragment he hadn't caught the first time. The last playthrough ended with a click he hadn't noticed before. A second of silence. Then, a tone. Morse code. 3 letters. REM. He wrote it down. Heart thudding like a ritual drum. REM. dream state, or the old protocol name used in the company's archival database. Remote emotional modulation, a system built not to influence the body, but to edit the mind. The old files had mentioned it, barely, buried under a The idea was that grief could be removed, entire memories edited out of the waking mind to increase worker productivity, but it hadn't stayed internal. That was what Wallace Granger had discovered, that the loop wasn't for control. It was for containment, because once enough people remembered, it didn't stop at them. Christopher stared at the motel ceiling, unable to breathe. That was when the dreams started again. Only they weren't his. He saw through other people's eyes, watched as a woman in an old Victorian house peeled back her wallpaper to reveal mirrors embedded in the drywall. He saw a teenager in Utah sketch the red sun symbol compulsively on her school desk until her fingers bled. He saw an old man bury a VHS tape in the woods behind a shuttered convenience store with the note, "Do not watch until 2033. Each time he woke up, the dreams stayed behind like residue. The memories were sticky, not nightmares, relapses. He wasn't remembering, he was receiving. And one morning, outside the motel door, he found a third envelope. Inside, no photo, just a napkin from a diner in Tennessee. A single scrawled sentence in handwriting that was definitely his. Asterisk, asterisk, you were right all along. But they won't let us finish remembering. Not without help. Asterisk, asterisk below it. 6 names, all first initials only, all matched to cities. C. Austin L. Chicago M. Portland S. Baton Rouge J. Owensboro 6. Fragments of the same loop. 6 memory glitches waiting to collapse. Christopher realized the conspiracy wasn't to hide the truth. It was to contain the infected. Each person who remembered became a signal. Each dream, a contagion. Somewhere out there, others were watching him the same way he had watched them. A shared hallucination, maybe, or a network, or something worse, a designed collapse. He found himself writing symbols on motel notepad. He didn't remember writing. Sometimes they were just numbers, sometimes half circles, sometimes a phrase. Asterisk, asterisk, it's not a memory, it's a broadcast. Asterisk, asterisk, and one night, just before sleep took him, he heard the red blazer woman's voice not outside, but inside his skull. Not whispering, laughing, warm. Familiar. Asterisk, asterisk, it's always been about who watches the watchers. Asterisk, asterisk, and then she said a name he had never told anyone. A name he hadn't heard since the night everything ended in 2003. Not Christopher. Asterisk, asterisk, welcome back, Simon. Asterisk, asterisk, he didn't sleep after that. Because he was afraid, but because he knew, the next time he closed his eyes, they'd start watching through his dreams instead. And he wasn't sure he'd be the one who woke up, not this time.